Welcome to the Big O Money Show. Bill Altman here with the Premier Advisory Group. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been such a great 10 years or so on with everybody on KFAB Nation. And a lot of you listen on Sunday mornings at 8:06 a.m., 1110 KFAB. We have a very special guest. So Tony Shore again with me. Special guest, Jennifer McMahan is in with us, and she's a religious formation director at St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Parish here in Omaha. West Omaha, about 144th and Maple. Large parish, large school, fantastic place. I've had the privilege and have been able to be a catechist, which is kind of like a religious education teacher, if you will. I don't even like to call myself a teacher necessarily. I don't know if I'm qualified on that end, but they call it catechist. So I'm there really to support and lead, and it's typically been 7th and 8th graders for the entire time. I've had 7th graders and taken them into 8th. This past time I've had these kids 6th, 7th, and 8th. In COVID year, I had 4th graders and 7th or 8th graders. I forget at that time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jennifer, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Thank you again, Bill, for having me on. It's such a privilege to be on. My name's again, Jennifer McMahan, Religious Formation Director at St. Vincent de Paul Parish. I've been in that role. Well, I've been working for the parish for about 10 years, the role of Religious Formation Director for about 8 years. And Bill has pretty much been a catechist for me all 8 of those years, I believe, because he's just really wonderful. And really all of our catechists are just wonderful, wonderful people to our young people, spreading their faith, I think helping them grow in their own faith as well. And speaking of the Religious Formation Program, we have over 400 families. Some of our families come on Wednesday night for classes. Others are in our home program. But they are just wonderful, beautiful families who are learning about the Catholic faith and just growing as disciples.
Yeah, that's very exciting too. And, you know, one thing I talked to Jennifer actually earlier today about is it was almost a generation skip. You know, my parents and their siblings were very involved and their parents were too in the Catholic faith. And I feel I always could have been better though. I could have tried harder. You know, earlier through in those, college years and on through early adulthood, but you get back into it and that's okay, right? You have that calling and people bring you back. I have a large Catholic family here from Omaha, originally South Omaha, St. Peter and Paul Parish. My dad's family, early in Iowa, a big Catholic family over there. So it's always been a big part of us. And there was a calling. It was Father Kampschneider, Dan Kampschneider, that called me one time and said, "Hey, would you be interested in looking at this opportunity?" This was early on, and I'm thinking like, okay, and then I don't know how it all ended up happening, but it happened, and here we are 8 or so years later, and it has been a blessing. And an uncle of mine he's a Catholic priest, and more, but he said, "You will," just like Jennifer said, "you will learn more than they will," or something to that extent. And at first I'm thinking, oh boy, you know, he has my card. He knows me too well, but it's very true. And you learn so much about yourself as a catechist. So people that are interested in becoming a catechist or looking at that role or religious life in some form or fashion, and it can be a layman or it could be, you know, within, whatever it may be, whatever your calling is, it is really cool. So mine is where I get to work with these kids on a day-to-day, not a day-to-day basis, but every Wednesday I get to work. And these are the kids that do not go to Catholic school day to day. So they go to the public school, so my kids did that, and they went through a religious formation, and some of you might know of it as CCD.
Right.
And I often still refer to it as CCD, and sometimes it's just being a smart aleck, because I don't like change, you know me, but religious formation, it's the same thing, right? So it's just development of your faith, and you go through the sacraments, and you start early on, and it's a lot of fun, and we have a very vibrant parish. We have a lot of things that we do for others too, within our own community, in our own parish, and actually around the globe. And so we're going to talk about that today. And a lot of people, if you're new listening in and you're wondering, what kind of show is this? This is a one-off show or what's going on here? We are a financial advisory firm. We're located on 120th between Blondo and Maple. And we are full service. We're a retirement planning firm, unlike a lot of retirement planning firms that only have people that are 50 and plus or 55 and plus or whatever. We want to say that if you're thinking about retirement, if it's in 50 years from now, or you're in retirement currently, we're your person because we help you plan to get there. That's the big difference from us and making sure that we dot all the I's, cross all the T's, your investments and your insurance and your legal and your tax and the whole 9 yards. We want to make sure that everything is fully buttoned up. And so that's what we do here. So again, for all of you loyal listeners, thank you. You know that. So we're not going to go into that anymore. And for all you new ones, that's what we do, and that's who we are. A lot of times we will have nonprofit situation shows on, which is a big deal to us, and it's really why I do what I do, and I enjoy it. I love what I do here, but it's the day to day. It's what I know. I do it in my sleep at this point. But today we're talking about rural Tanzania, and we're talking about Father Augustine Gama. Am I saying Augustine right? Augustine
Yes.
Gama. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Father Gama from St. Vincent, he was a priest at St. Vincent for a while. How many years?
3 years.
3 years. And now he's back in Tanzania running his own parish or group of parishes area.
Right. So Father Gama, again, he was here, and he was actually in the Omaha area for 10 years. He started out, he had come over from Tanzania. His archbishop had sent him to go to Creighton University. So he went to Creighton, got his master's, and then at that time, he was over at St. Philip Neri. And then after Philip Neri, he was associate pastor over at Mary Our Queen, and then he came over to St. Vincent as associate pastor. And then his archbishop called him back to his archdiocese, which is the Archdiocese of Songea in Tanzania. So now that he's back over there, he is actually the vicar of finance of the diocese, and he's director of 2 of the archdiocesan schools there, St. Joseph Primary School and Centenary Secondary School, which is equivalent to kind of our high school.
Sure.
So since he has gone back, he still continues to come to Omaha once a year, again, to kind of see everyone, but also to raise funding for his diocese. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Tanzania, but more than half Tanzanians live on under $2 a day. So yes, very heartbreaking. So their diocese is not very wealthy. So again, Father Gama comes back kind of once a year to help fundraise for his diocese. And our families, religious formation families, right when he came back, have constantly asked, how can we help Father Gama? How can we help the people of Tanzania, his diocese? So every year for Advent, which we're now in the season of Advent, we have come up with different service projects to help his diocese. So last year, we were trying to kind of think of different things we could do for his diocese. And the kids have really kind of begun to make a little bit of a connection with the students over at St. Joseph, especially St. Joseph Primary School, because they're kids their age. So it's easy for them to kind of relate. And Father was telling me a story of how he has to provide, obviously, lunch for these students. Now, most of the kids that do go to the school, their parents can't afford the tuition, but of course, Father just welcomes them and whatever he needs to do to be able to, supply books, teacher salaries, even food, he does his best to do. So we were thinking, so for a normal lunch, most kids only get rice and beans, and that might be the only meal that they get at all during the day, because maybe when they get home, there's not enough food to put on the table. So we, the families, we wanted to be able to provide some kind of protein or vegetable to be able to add to that lunch. So last Advent, we raised funding for Father to be able to buy eggs. So each student would get 1 egg at lunchtime. So, of course, our donations only went so far, would only go for so many months. So when Father was back visiting the Omaha back in August, he had mentioned possibly he would like to build a chicken coop to be able to have chickens. And then that way, every day a student can have one egg. And he told a story of how one of the new families that had enrolled at St. Joseph, he had asked him, well, why do you want to enroll your child? And they told him, because our son said you get an egg at lunchtime. So that was why he wanted to enroll.
Wow.
At the school, was just so he could get that one egg to eat every day. So our families have decided that we're fundraising to be able to build a chicken coop and provide chickens for St. Joseph and Centenary School. So St. Joseph Primary School has 350 students. Centenary has another 100 students. So again, we would like to build a coop, chicken, provide feeding. So these students, these kids, and even the teachers and the staff can at least get just one egg a day. So very beautiful. We're a few years ago, we also were able to provide a water tank for the school so that they could have water during the dry season, because before that, they didn't even have a tank. So during the dry season, they really would not have water at all unless they went out with buckets to get water from different sources. So yes.
Pretty amazing and pretty wonderful cause. And it's amazing to see the students get involved and get so excited about that. And it's really, a big part of it as well is making sure, again, like I said earlier, carrying on that faith and just carrying on the good. And so from whatever faith that you may come from, necessarily doesn't matter, right? It's making sure that we carry on and we do good to others. And there's a motto for so long in schools, in both the public and the private schools, that was a simple: be kind to others, right? Be kind, # be kind. And that's, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. When you talk about $2 a day and very poor, impoverished, and don't have much, and don't have water, but correct me if I'm wrong, but are they just the happiest people ever?
So I've had the privilege. So I go over to Tanzania twice a year, and I've done that since my first trip was back in 2020. So pretty much ever since then, I've tried to get over there twice a year, and they are the most happy, loving, welcoming people I have ever met. If they only had one glass of water, when I would come to visit, they would give me that one glass just to make sure I was okay. So beautiful, loving, as I said, most gracious and God loving. Their faith is amazing, just absolutely amazing. Anything that happens to them, it's, we've got to pray. It's kind of what Father Gama always has said, God is good all the time.
Right?
All the time, God is good. So amazing, beautiful people.
Yeah, that's right. And, I've had the privilege of seeing my dad go over to Nigeria with Father Kizito. He was a pastor over at St. Wenceslas for a while. And they did a lot of schools and employments of teachers and different things. And there are very dangerous areas over there. And there is corrupt government everywhere. But you think our government's corrupt? Go to some of these other places where people are really fighting for their lives, like just good old normal people in villages fighting, right? And that they really want to do that, and they're so happy. And my dad would go there all these years, and he would come back more humbled each time, and which was very special. And every single time that he went over there, he would come back and say, they're just the most gracious, wonderful people ever. We hear stories from other people that he would go being like, oh my gosh, it was crazy, right? But I would never hear that from him. And same with Jennifer. And Jennifer comes back from these trips, and it's, I'm not saying that you come back a new person, but you come back more humbled, more enlightened of what's going on elsewhere, what's going on around the world. And so what we can do, and so, yeah, they're not wealthy, but wealth certainly doesn't create happiness, right? But what it does allow us to do is give back. So this, this is an aware, and we talked about this earlier too, and I've called some of my friends, and they told, they're like, well, just, hey, Bill, tell me, where to write the check or what. No, that's not what this is all about. This is about raising awareness for what is going on.
Right.
Right now, of course, we welcome your money, because that helps with building chicken coops and buying chickens, and then you have to feed the chickens, right? And then some chickens die.
Right.
Remember, I had a chicken coop.
Oh yeah.
So we have chicken coops. A little different situation, but what it did too was teach our kids and teach the neighbor kids, and it was so fun to get to do and watch that. So that's on our side here in West Omaha, but then you transfer this over to rural Nigeria where they're using the egg to feed a child an egg a day, and so they get more protein, which is so wonderful. And at the same time, then they get to see the science of all that happen. So it's so incredibly well-rounded.
Right. And also, like Father mentioned, the students are going to be in charge of taking care of the chickens, cleaning the coop. So it's
responsibility,
just, so yes. It's like you said, just full circle of teaching them right. Just everything that.
So for our kids here, learning on how important it is to give back and see what's going on, because we're in a nice little bubble. It's like I've talked about this. My wife is from just north of San Diego. I met her in Arizona, brought her back to Omaha, kicking and screaming, and she came back and finally settled in. And now it's like she's never leaving. This is paradise to her, right? Because it's a perfect little bubble, right? Yeah, it gets cold. It was cold this week, and got snow, and we have all that. Then it gets nice, and it gets humid, and then it gets windy, and we have tornadoes. We have all that jazz. But don't we have just the greatest people in the economy? A great economy, and schools are fantastic. Churches all over. Really, it's a wonderful place to live and raise kids. And so what can we do with that we've been granted and we've been gifted and we've been blessed with? We are custodians. We're just caretakers of what we have, really, right? So you have, whatever you have, whatever your possessions and your bank accounts and your houses and your cars and all that kind of crap, whatever that is, we're just caretakers of it, right? And then at some point it passes on, but you don't take it with you, right? That old story, it doesn't go in the hearse with you. You don't get buried with the Tony's vault, your vault.
Yeah, the vault.
The vault, yeah. But really, so it's like, what can we do? So we've been blessed with all this. What can we do to give back? So our kids right now are being tasked with, at school, they're being tasked with raising money to provide, and the number's small. So a lot of these nonprofits come in and say, yeah, we're looking for, a good solid 30 mil or so to build this or that or whatever. That's not the case. We're building a chicken coop and chickens and eggs, right? But we want to make a splash, and we want to raise awareness. We want people to understand what's going on out there, and that it's not that you see the commercials, the infomercials on TV, and the kids crying in the street, and it's crazy. And I'm sure that is there, but there are so many of these impoverished areas that they're so incredibly happy and they love us so much.
Yes.
But we know that there is so much more we can do to improve their life. It's not giving them an iPad or doing this or that. It's giving them protein.
Right. It's something
increasing life expectancy.
Right. Something as simple as an egg.
Yeah.
But you don't. But that egg is everything. The little boy who wanted to go to school just so he could eat an egg at lunchtime.
Right. And now he's going to get a great education, understand the science behind what happens with chickens and eggs and coops and feeding and death and all those kind of things, right? And get that. And that's the exciting part. And that's what we're doing, right? And so I'm asking all of our listeners in this season of entering the Christmas season. We've got through Thanksgiving, and we pop into the Christmas season, and we're in Advent right now. And what happens is, what can we do to help out and make a difference, and to let our own kids know? So maybe it's not you listening, but maybe that's right in the check, but maybe it's you talking to your grandkids about it, or your own kids about it. Hey, did you know that this is actually going on over here? And this is what we can do, and this is what we can do to give back.
Yeah.
And then that will carry on for generations and generations, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So what else is going on at St. Vincent, Jennifer?
Well, again, we're in the Advent season, which is very exciting. So we have that going on. Trying to think, do you have any big plans for Advent? Are you going to be going to any Bible studies? Are you going to be doing a little praying differently? Something to add to your Advent season? Maybe?
Yeah, like I said, I'm probably not the best one. You're not talking to Father Altman here. We do have a Father Kaiser here in the office. So that might be a better one to talk to, but I'll try to continue on and keep going, right?
That's wonderful.
I'll show up on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I'm going to go to church on Sundays.
Right, you go,
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a good period of reflection, right? I mean, that's what Advent is all about.
Yes.
I mean, just reflecting on Jesus and his arrival and moving forward. What does that mean? I think Advent's a great time to just focus in. It helps us focus in on what's really important. And like this, like providing eggs for people. You'd never think of something like that because we've been given so much over here, right?
Or clean water.
Or clean water.
Just water. Yeah, just water and clean water. And there's so many ways people can probably help. I mean, some people might even say, hey, I want to go over there and help build buildings, or I want to provide money so you can get more eggs or more food. And I just think raising awareness, like you said, Bill, that's the key, isn't it?
It really truly is. And that's the exciting part. And, you talk about Advent and what I see in our younger generation. I talked about kind of generation skipping, and I see my own kids that one goes to Tennessee, one goes to Auburn, and one goes to Miller North, a junior. And they're all involved, and they're doing it on their own. They're doing it without like bribery. I thought I was going to have to give them $20 or something to go to church. I didn't really know,
Right.
And they're doing it on their own. It's very cool. And I see Grace going to Holy Grounds. We talked about this last night at our parish council meeting, actually. She goes to Holy Grounds on 192nd and Harrison for a Bible study. This is not provoked by me whatsoever. I didn't talk to her about this, tell her about it, do anything. This is 100% on her own, where she's doing these little four-person groups, which is actually something new at St. Vincent as well. And it's a pilot program where we're doing these little four-person kind of study groups, and it's a session, and it's like a 2-part session. It's really cool, 7 or 8 weeks, something right around that area. But what's neat is that's all out there. And you're right, Tony, that is the reflection piece. And you're very familiar with your wife works and you've adopted.
Yes.
Tell us, we got a couple minutes left. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah. And we adopted our daughter from Guatemala, and there are just so many teen births and pregnancies down there, and so many unwanted children. And usually you get down there and there's no man in the picture, and the women are too young, and there's no money. And so there's so many orphans. And so we adopted our daughter when she was 2. And my wife has worked in the adoption field, international adoption. And unfortunately, there was a lot of corruption, and that really upset her. But there's some great organizations and some great Christian and Catholic organizations that help with it. And also, she works in the care field for seniors as part of Augustana and Elam Care. It's interesting because it was a Catholic and a Protestant company that came together to provide assisted living and long-term care for people. It's a nonprofit. So we've been involved in that, and Advent is an important time leading up to the birth of Christ that we celebrate on Christmas. So, it's those 4 Sundays, and, anything that we can do to get Bill into the church on a Wednesday is, that's the plus here, isn't it?
I'll have to be going every day. I got a lot of makeup work to do. But anyway, we're about out of time. We really appreciate everybody listening today.
Yes.
For Jennifer being on. Donations, you can direct them to St. Vincent de Paul. Direct them over to Jennifer in the religious education so we can see kind of what's going on in the outreach there. We really appreciate it. Father Gama over in Tanzania will super appreciate it. The most vibrant, awesome, happy person I've met probably. Tony, thanks for sharing and being on with you, of course. We wish you all a very, very happy Sunday, week ahead. And as we approach our Christmas season here.
Yes. Thank you again, Bill, so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of the Big O Money Show with our host, Bill Altman.